chosen ones, God allows these tests right before giving you a huge gift. There's a moment in every chosen one's life when everything feels like it's falling apart. And it's not subtle. It's not just a bad day or a rough week, it's a storm that shakes the very foundation of who you think you are. You start to question everything, your purpose, your direction, even your worth. It feels like life is stripping everything away from you, like you're being punished for something you cannot name. But what if I told you this isn't punishment at all? What if I told you that this moment, this exact moment, when you feel most lost, is the threshold of your greatest gift? We don't talk about this enough, but there is a precise spiritual pattern that repeats itself throughout history, in every culture, in every sacred text. Before the blessing comes, there is always the breaking. Before the light enters, there is always a descent into darkness. Before the gift is delivered, you must become someone who can carry it. And that process, that transformation, it doesn't happen through comfort. It happens through fire, through tests, through silence, through nights when you cry out to the sky and hear nothing back. And yet, something is happening in those moments, something sacred, something divine.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You see, when you're chosen, you don't get to walk the easy path. You don't get to bypass the inner work. Because what's coming to you, what's meant for you, is too big to be carried by your current version. So you are broken open. Your illusions are shattered. Your attachments are tested. Not because God is cruel, but because God is preparing you for something that defies your current imagination. You asked for a miracle, didn't you? You asked for purpose, for power, for peace, and God said yes. But first, the clearing. First, the test. Let's be honest. Most people don't pass this part. They resist it. They label it as failure. They run from the pain, numb it, distract themselves. But you're still here. Listening, feeling, searching. That means something. That means you've already begun to awaken. Because chosen ones don't run from the fire. We learn to walk through it. We learn to listen to it. We learn to let it burn away everything that isn't aligned with our highest path. And that's terrifying. But it's also powerful. Because once you've survived the fire, you no longer fear it. You carry it. I want you to think about something. What if your delay is divine? What if your loneliness is sacred? What if your confusion is the space where clarity is being born? So many people give up right before the shift, right before the door opens, because the test gets harder just before the reward drops. Why? Because the test is the proof. The universe is asking you, are you ready to receive what you asked for? Can you hold it without breaking? Can you love it without losing yourself? Can you rise without forgetting who you are? These aren't ordinary questions. These are solvable questions. And they come in the form of circumstances, people, betrayals, delays. That friend who suddenly turns on you. That opportunity that slips through your fingers. That plan that collapses out of nowhere. It's not chaos. It's calibration. Your energy is being tuned to a higher frequency, and everything that cannot match that vibration is falling away. It hurts, but it's necessary, because what's coming next is not ordinary, and neither are you. Have you noticed the patterns repeating in your life lately? The same types of people showing up, the same emotional triggers surfacing, the same obstacles appearing in slightly different forms. That's not coincidence. That's curriculum. The universe doesn't teach through comfort, it teaches through repetition. Until you get it. Until you see it. Until you rise above it and say, I understand now. I'm ready. And when that happens, everything begins to shift. Not because your circumstances change immediately, but because you change. And when you change, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, the world has no choice but to reflect that. You might be wondering, but why me? Why does it have to be this hard for me? Because you're not meant to live a small life. You're meant to lead, to shine, to heal, to break generational patterns, to unlock portals of wisdom that others are too afraid to approach. You're not being tested because you're weak. You're being tested because you're powerful. And power that hasn't been tested is unpredictable. So the universe makes sure that when your gift comes, you can carry it with integrity, with humility, with strength. And here's the most important part. This test is timed. It doesn't last forever. But how you respond to it determines how long you stay in it. You can't shortcut the process, but you can surrender to it. You can lean in. You can ask, what is this trying to teach me? What part of me is being asked to evolve? What am I still clinging to that I need to release? These questions unlock doors that no amount of external effort can open, because the real shift is always internal first. The external just follows. So if you're in the storm, if you're in the silence, if you're in the space where everything feels like it's crumbling, congratulations. You're in the perfect position to receive. You're being emptied so you can be filled. You're being stretched so you can hold more. You're being refined so that when the gift arrives, you don't sabotage it. You honor it. You protect it. You expand it. But there's more. Because the next phase isn't just about surviving the test, it's about understanding it. It's about decoding the language of divine timing and learning how to move with the current instead of against it. It's about seeing the hidden symbols, the sacred mathematics behind your pain, and realizing that nothing in your journey has been random. The sacred pattern, how God uses hidden codes to shape your destiny. There's something you start to notice when you stop resisting the test and begin to observe it. Beneath the chaos, behind the heartbreak, inside the silence, there's a pattern, a sequence, a divine code. And once you begin to see it, you can't unsee it. It's as if the universe has been speaking to you this entire time in a language you were never taught to understand. Numbers repeating, dreams aligning with reality, conversations that echo thoughts you never shared, uncanny timing, delays that felt like setbacks but turned out to be redirections. It's all connected. None of it is random. You start to realize that God has been orchestrating everything, even the pain, with a precision that defies logic. And that's when something deep within you shifts. You stop feeling like a victim of your life, and you begin to feel like a participant in your destiny. Most people miss this because they're too busy trying to escape the discomfort. But when you're chosen, that option isn't available to you for long. Because God doesn't just want you to be awake, He wants you to be aware, to see through the veil, to understand that every test carries a message, and every message carries a map. You are not being punished, you are being initiated, and the code is the curriculum. The repeating cycles in your life are not there to torment you, they're there to train you, to show you where your energy leaks, where your integrity cracks, where your alignment falters, so you can correct it. So you can rise. I think about your life right now. Where are you being asked to let go? Where are you being asked to trust something you cannot see? Where are you being stretched beyond what you thought you could handle? These are not random questions. They are coordinates, markers on the map of your transformation. And if you slow down enough, if you pay attention, you'll begin to see the divine fingerprint on every moment that broke you. You'll realize that nothing was wasted, not the heartbreak, not the betrayal, not the delay. All of it was encoded with purpose. There's a moment in every chosen one's journey when you realize that your pain has been trying to teach you the language of your soul. Because the truth is, the soul doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symbols, in sensations, in knowing. And when you start to align with that deeper part of yourself, you begin to see life differently. The people who left, they were part of the pattern. The doors that closed, that was protection. The opportunities that passed you by, that was divine pacing. You weren't being denied, you were being developed. This is where your power begins to rise, not from force, but from clarity. From the realization that you were never alone in your suffering, that God was always there, not removing the obstacles, but using them, shaping you through them, whispering through them, preparing you. Because the gift that's coming to you is not ordinary, and it can't be delivered to someone who's still living in distraction. It requires a version of you that's fully awake, fully rooted, fully aligned. So what do you do when you start to see the code? You stop fighting the pattern, and you start learning from it. You become a student of your own energy. You begin to ask better questions, not why is this happening to me, but what is this pattern trying to teach me about myself? And the moment you ask that, you shift timelines. You move from reaction to revelation. You begin to walk in sync with the current of divine timing. And suddenly you don't need to chase anymore. The right doors begin to open. The right people begin to appear. The right opportunities flow toward you not because you forced them, but because you finally aligned with the frequency that attracts them. This is the deeper truth. You are the code. It's written in your being, in your desires, in your dreams, in the things that break your heart and the things that light your soul on fire. You don't need to earn your purpose, you need to remember it. And the tests, they're the mirrors. They show you where you've forgotten, where you've compromised, where you've settled. And once you see that, you can't go back. You won't want to, because you'll know everything you've gone through was leading you here, to this moment, to this awakening, to this realization that you are not who you were before the test. And that is the point. So now you stand in front of the sacred pattern, not as a victim, but as a vessel, not confused, but curious, ready to decode the next layer, ready to walk with intention, ready to receive what was always meant for you. And yet, this is only the middle of the journey. Because once you've seen the pattern, you're being called to embody it, to walk in a new frequency, to lead from a higher place. And that next chapter, it's where the true shift happens. The frequency of favor, how to rise into the vibration that attracts your divine reward. There comes a turning point in the spiritual journey of the chosen one where awareness is no longer enough. You've seen the signs, you've endured the tests, and you've begun to decode the sacred pattern that governs your life. But now, the question shifts from why is this happening to how do I walk in alignment with what I now know? Because knowledge without embodiment is just potential energy. And favor, true divine favor, is not granted to those who simply know the truth. It's given to those who live it, who become it. That's where the frequency of favor begins to shape your reality, not as a theory, but as an undeniable force. To rise into this frequency, you must first understand what it truly is. Favor is not luck. It's not coincidence. It's not privilege in the worldly sense. Favor is alignment. It's the resonance that happens when your inner world is attuned to divine will. It's when your thoughts, emotions, decisions, and energy are no longer scattered, no longer dictated by fear or ego, but are unified around a higher truth. When that happens, you begin to emit a signal into the universe that says, I am ready, I trust, I walk in purpose. And that signal draws to you what was already yours in the unseen realm. But this frequency isn't something you stumble into. It's cultivated, it's protected, it's chosen again and again, in every moment where you're tempted to fall back into the old self, the version of you that needed validation, that chased outcomes, that feared being too much or not enough. That version is incompatible with divine favor, because favor doesn't flow to the mask, it flows to the soul. And rising into that place will require you to sacrifice the safety of who you've been for the sacredness of who you're becoming. So how do you do this? How do you step fully into the vibration that attracts your divine reward? You begin by mastering your state. Your state is the energy you carry into every room, every conversation, every decision. It's how you feel when no one's watching. It's the tone of your inner dialogue. It's the invisible frequency that communicates more than your words ever could. And here's the truth, your state is your responsibility. No one else can regulate it for you. No one else can protect your peace. No one else can keep you aligned when the world tries to pull you out of yourself. That's your job, and the chosen ones know this. That's why they guard their energy like a treasure, because it is. Next, you must release the need to control outcomes. This is one of the hardest lessons, and yet it's essential. Favor doesn't respond to force. It responds to surrender, to trust, to the quiet confidence that says, I don't know how or when, but I know it's already done. That kind of trust creates space for the divine to move. It removes the blocks of anxiety and desperation. It invites miracles. Because when you stop needing it to happen your way, you allow it to happen the right way. Another key to this frequency is radical authenticity. You cannot rise into divine favor while still operating from a false self. The universe doesn't respond to who you pretend to be, it responds to who you truly are. That means speaking your truth, even when your voice shakes. That means walking away from what no longer serves you, even if it means walking alone. That means aligning your actions with your values, even when it's inconvenient. Because every time you choose authenticity over approval, you raise your vibration. And every time you raise your vibration, you align yourself more deeply with the blessings that are already seeking you. Also, understand that divine reward doesn't always look how you expect it to. It's not always money, fame, or recognition. Sometimes it's peace that surpasses understanding. Sometimes it's clarity that cuts through confusion. Sometimes it's the right person showing up at the right time. Sometimes it's a door you were praying for not opening because a better one is being built behind the scenes. When you're in the frequency of favor, you stop judging the blessing by how it appears. You start feeling it, receiving it, honoring it in whatever form it arrives. And here's where it gets even deeper. When you consistently live in this frequency, you don't just attract favor, you become favor. You walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere. You speak and people feel seen. You create and others are healed. Your very presence becomes a portal for transformation. Not because you're trying to be powerful, but because you are aligned. And in that alignment, the divine flows effortlessly through you. Ask yourself this: what am I still holding on to that's blocking my favor? What belief, what fear, what old version of me am I still carrying that no longer resonates with my future? Because the frequency of favor demands a lighter load. You cannot take every opinion, every regret, every wound with you. You must travel light. You must travel true. You must travel as who you really are. You're not waiting for the reward. It's waiting for you to rise, waiting for you to remember, waiting for you to match its frequency. And now you're almost there. But there's one more revelation, one final layer to peel back. Because once the favor arrives, once the gift is placed in your hands, there's a choice that will determine everything. What will you do with it? The steward of destiny, what you must do when the gift finally arrives. There is a sacred weight that comes with receiving what you've prayed for. It's not just the joy of manifestation or the fulfillment of desire, it's the awakening of responsibility. Because when the gift finally arrives, it doesn't just elevate your life, it expands your purpose. And in that moment, you are no longer just the seeker, you become the steward. The one who must now carry, protect, and multiply what was divinely entrusted to you. This is a phase most people are unprepared for. They think the journey ends when the blessing shows up, but the truth is, that's where it begins. The real work starts not when you are waiting, but when you are holding. Receiving the gift is a form of spiritual graduation. It means you've passed the tests. You've walked through the fire and emerged with a heart still open, a soul still intact. But now, the universe leans in and whispers, "What will you do with what I've given you? Will you remain grounded? Will you stay in alignment? Will you remember the pain that shaped you? Or will you let the comfort of abundance dull your spiritual edge?" Because the most common downfall of the chosen one is not failure, it's forgetting. Forgetting the path. Forgetting the source. Forgetting the reason you were chosen in the first place. That's why stewardship is sacred. It means you understand that your gift isn't just for you, it's through you for others. Your wisdom, your healing, your art, your leadership, your peace, it was given to you so you could be a mirror, a lighthouse, a living example of what's possible when someone surrenders fully to the divine process. You were never meant to just receive the reward and retreat. You were meant to circulate it, to become a vessel through which grace flows. But that doesn't mean it's easy. When you rise, your tests change form. Now, the test is not how to endure lack, but how to steward abundance. Not how to survive pain, but how to remain humble in power. Not how to wait, but how to move from wisdom when everything is finally in your hands. This is where many fall, because after the storm, we crave ease. After the silence, we crave noise. After the hunger, we crave indulgence. But the chosen ones, the true chosen ones, they stay vigilant. They know that the gift is not the destination, it's the tool, the portal, the spark of a new assignment. So ask yourself, am I ready to be a guardian of what I've received? Am I willing to be the kind of person who doesn't just attract favor, but honors it? Because your gift will attract attention. It will draw people to you. Some will come to be healed. Some will come to be inspired. Others will come to take, to misuse, to drain. And you must discern. You must protect your frequency like never before. You must surround yourself with those who see your soul, not just your success. Stewardship also means continuing to grow. Just because you've received the gift doesn't mean the journey of transformation ends. In fact, it deepens. Because now you're building legacy. Now you're laying down energetic tracks that others will walk long after you're gone. But it's not about perfection, it's about presence. Being awake enough to notice when your ego starts creeping in. Being honest enough to admit when you've slipped out of alignment. Being brave enough to keep evolving even when no one is watching. And here's a deeper truth. The gift will test you just as much as the waiting did. It will test your intentions. It will test your heart. It will test your capacity to stay rooted in love when the world hands you power. The question is no longer, can I survive the storm? The question becomes, can I thrive in the light without losing my soul? Can you hold the spotlight and still choose silence when needed? Can you receive praise and still point upward, knowing where it truly came from? Can you use your platform to heal, not just to be seen? Because ultimately, the gift is not about you, it's about what flows through you. It's about how many lives you can touch, how much light you can radiate, how deeply you can serve while remaining whole. That's the essence of a true chosen one. Not someone who gets everything they want, but someone who becomes exactly who they were born to be and uses it to awaken others. So if the door has opened for you, step through, but step through with reverence. Hold your gift with gratitude. Use your voice with intention. Build from a place of love. And most of all, remember the journey that shaped you. Let it anchor you. Let it remind you that the most powerful thing you can offer the world is not your talent, your wealth, or your influence, it's your alignment. When you stay aligned, everything else flows from there. This is what it means to be chosen. It's not about being better. It's about being willing. Willing to be emptied, tested, refined, and then willing to carry the light with humility and strength once it arrives. You were called not just to rise, but to lift. Not just to receive, but to reflect. Not just to be seen, but to see others. And now, the final question becomes, what legacy will you leave with the gift you've been given? Because in the end, that's what echoes, not what you had, but what you became.